The return of Chapter 1 is actually upon us. Next season, we'll be able to play in Paradise Palms, Lazy Links, Pleasant Park. But will the return of OG Fortnite really be enough to save the game? Or is there something more about that time, that feeling, those OG graphics that makes us miss it so much? Well, of course there is. In the beginning, none of us had our first victory royale. None of us had seen vehicles in the game. None of us had experienced a live event. Everything was so fresh and exciting and new to us, which is why we look back on it with such a nostalgic feeling and wish we could go back to feeling that same way. And I think playing in the POIs that we love will somewhat bring back that feeling, but I'm just saying it can't exactly replicate it. People have to realize that the game has changed, and so have we as its players. 6 years ago, when you first started playing Fortnite, if you did play in Chapter 1, you were a very different person. And Fortnite was a very different game. At the time, a lot of people were pretty horrible, and although I still am, a lot of you have probably gotten quite a bit better. The game in general has just become more of a competitive scene. There's FNCS, there's at least one sweat in like every couple games, and the lack of fun items is also really obvious. I mean, this isn't even OG Fortnite, but one of my favorite seasons is Chapter 2 Season 7. In that season, we could fight aliens, go into motherships, drive UFOs, and become an inflatable cow. There was even a Ferrari for a few weeks. Like, this was so random but such a fun season, and I think it was similar to Chapter 1 in terms of the fact that there was just a lot of cool things to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like this season has sort of done that pretty well. It's likely because of the new creative director or creative chief officer Charlie Wen stepping in and sort of adding his own elements of fun to the game. I love the lockdowns, I love the fact that there's now vampires. I also really love the rocket ram. I think that's a super fun addition, and I think that the game in general is slowly returning to this more fun state where Epic Games weren't as afraid to experiment with what they were putting out. In my previous video, I talked about how the Fracture event could have been really good, but instead Epic decided not to take a risk and to just make it really straightforward and quite boring. And if you're agreeing with most of the things I'm saying in this video, a subscribe to the channel would be greatly appreciated. But now it's time we talk about LTMs. 50v50, food fight, the floor is lava, bodyguard, high stakes. I mean, even for this year's Fortnite Maze event, Horde Rush has come back and look how many people are playing it. I know you want everyone to play your bullshit Skibbity Toilet Tycoon or whatever creative is pushing out, but we enjoy being on your map with your weapons in an LTM that makes us just feel like the game is sort of spiced up. That's all we want. It's easy to do, so why don't we have LTMs? Well, I mean, it's what I said earlier. Epic just want to push the focus to creative, and I do understand that. It makes them and creators on the platform a lot of money. It also increases their playtime quite a lot. I mean, I'm pretty sure creative playtime is actually higher than Battle Royale. But I don't understand why Epic can't also just do LTMs, because it would bring more people back and the player base would increase in total. You'd have people from the OG days coming back to play OG LTMs. You'd have people who were playing creative maps based on their favorite IPs, or maybe just to warm up because those seem to be the most popular ones. And on top of that, you would also have people playing the core Battle Royale modes like Ranked, Zero Build, and Normal Battle Royale. And I think this is a very likely thing that we will see happen in the Chapter 1 return. LTMs have to come back. It was a core part of the game at that time. There's just something a lot more special about being on the Fortnite island and seeing it with lava than a normal random creative map. Players have always had an attachment to the island. I mean, look at what this whole return is. Everyone's excited about the Chapter 1 map coming back. The island used to be so much more interactive in the older days of the game as well. We would have cubes rolling around. We had the cube go into the lake and make it bouncy in the middle of a game. Honestly, I think the cube's the perfect example of it. Like, it was just so cool to see this stuff happen in game and bring the community together. Also, in my favorite season of Chapter 1, Season 8, we had to hit around the different runes to form the vault and then open it in the game as well. We had that truck with like 10,000 health or the rubber duck. Like, it was just so cool and it was random, but it was awesome. Now we don't have that same attachment to different Fortnite islands, and it's probably because we leave them in the space of like 4 seasons. So there are definitely some inherently different things about what Fortnite was like back then and how it is like now. To answer the question in the title, no, I don't think OG Fortnite can save Season 5, but I think a mix of new mechanics with the old stuff that we were nostalgic for can. The perfect thing to prove this point is all the Chapter 1 islands that were remade in Creative 2.0. Notice how after a week no one plays them because they're tired of it not having mantling and sprinting and all the good changes that Chapter 4 has brought? I mean, I'm not saying I like Chapter 4 and compared to the other ones, I think it could have had a lot to improve on, but I think there are aspects that are core to the game now that we can't just remove and go totally back to the OG days. It just doesn't work. But what does work is a balance of both. A season where we get to experience all of our favorite POIs, memories, weapons, characters, all of it, with the new graphics, voice acting, cinematics. I mean, can you imagine how amazing it would be to experience the end of Chapter 1 event with the new graphics and with voice acting from all members of the Seven? I think that revisiting Chapter 1 will also be very interesting from a story standpoint because it can answer some questions which we have no idea about. Like, people have been saying that Kato Thorne might have caused the things to randomly disappear in Chapter 1 Season 5. We could get to see how Io operated in Chapter 1. I saw something on Twitter about Sloane and Jones meeting past versions of themselves. That would be really cool. We could see the visitor's arrival from his perspective and maybe he could meet his corrupted version in the last reality. There's a lot that can be done when revisiting the past, and I think it will be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. It'll be overwhelming, but so simplistic. It'll feel nostalgic, yet refreshing, and I'm really excited to see where Fortnite is headed with the return of Chapter 1.